T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Midheaven Podcast. This, of course, is your favorite Hades Hermes duo. I am, of course, the Peace Dealer, as you can see, and I am here with my co-host. I was going to say my guest, but with my co-host.
Your guest? What are you, fucking Oprah?
And her
Are you trying to take over right now? And you're in my lair? You would. Considering that this episode is about to be about Sag season, you're about to get served up the tea. My name's Candice Marie of Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. Thank you guys for joining us. Welcome back.
Welcome, indeed. It's been an interesting couple of weeks since we last reconvened. I actually wasn't expecting to speak about Sag today because I made a Sagittarius skit this morning.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, don't worry. Thankfully, we're filming this in early November. It's not going to come out until Sag season. We're a little bit ahead, which is good because we're planning some new episodes. How was it interesting? Because you lost your phone and your wallet the same fucking week? Do you know how hard it is to get a hold of you? It's weird to me that I was like telling my fiance, I was like, yeah, he lost his phone. And he's like, how is he posting on Instagram like every hour?
I don't.
So, what, you like rogue or what?
In the wise words of Kevin Gates, I got two phones, one for the plug and one for the hose.
That's such a broke ass thing. Why can't you just get a dual SIM?
A dual SIM.
You sound like a drug dealer. You're black and you have two phones.
Yes.
One's lost and the other one's cracked.
Yeah, and that cracked during the Mercury retrograde too. It's two different plans.
At least you didn't have like Boost Mobile. I was waiting for you to tell me.
I just wanted to have an iPhone, Android, and I wanted an Android and an Apple to balance. You know, I had to have duality.
No, it just sounds like double dipping to me.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I text people with the iPhone and then the business.
Or people like, you broke ass bitch, when they see like the green text.
Right, exactly. That's why I don't like to text people on my Android, because I want them to see the blue and it's like, see, I'm gang too. But
I feel like
I'm team Android.
I feel like as a woman, if I see a green text box, I'm like, that's a low credit score. I'm not going to respond to that.
This is why I just text with the iPhone. You feel me? That's why I only text family with my Android, or like I use it for a business when I talk to clients. But it is what it is. But yeah,
maybe you should go for 3 and get a burner phone, huh?
I mean, well, yeah, I do need a burner phone, but for different reasons. But the the bittersweet part is that I lost my iPhone looking for my wallet.
And his wallet's still been missing.
And then I realized the wallet I lost was the replacement wallet, because I thought I lost my original. And once I bought the replacement, I found the original.
Gemini in the second.
So like
everything.
Seriously, so like if I didn't even have to look for the wallet because I already had an ID and replaced, so me losing my iPhone was totally pointless. I didn't have to do it, and I was walking down Industrial Road, just like dancing to my music, feeling like such a badass, and then I lost my phone. So I mean, it is what it is. I felt like I was meant to, back to back too, because it's Scorpio season, right? Like, and I exited the shadow period. That Mercury retrograde was just horrible. It was from hell. Like my phone cracked out of nowhere. I mean, it just.
And then the universe said, "Upgrade, bitch."
Yeah, that's really the big message. 'Cause even when I lost the phone, I was already going to replace it because of planned obsolescence. I had an update that killed the internet. So I was already going to replace the phones. It's just the universe was like, do it now. And I was like, oh, okay, Scorpio.
But here's the question. Did you have a Velcro wallet?
Ooh. I had one of those back pocket wallets that are kind of small. No.
Because you said you had two wallets.
The front pocket wallet.
Okay.
I had a front pocket wallet. It was like small.
I don't know what this is. I don't stick things in my pocket. I'm a woman. I put things in my bra, or I put things in my bag.
It wasn't Velcro, but it was small enough. And I just got the same type of the first type because I just wanted to replace it. But it wasn't until I got the second one and I found the first one. So I just kept that safe. But it's just bittersweet.
I would freak out. Even if I like put my wallet in my purse and put my purse somewhere other than where I leave it or in my car, I have a meltdown if I can't find it. I just can't. So, props to you.
Yeah, I figured, new season, new me.
So you're getting a new iPhone?
I want it. Well, first of all, I declared war on Apple. I felt like if you're gonna like play me like that and screw my phone up so I can update it because you feel like I had the 7S Plus for too long. You know what I mean?
You have a
like,
7? Are you sending smoke signals to other people? Like,
I have to.
How do you function with that?
I have to be an old geezer because like I didn't even know they had the 10 or 11 out. I was like, I've been under a rock. I thought my
like a
7S
caveman.
was like straight up. I didn't even know it was such an old phone. Like the years passed by so much. I thought it was still like, you know, but yeah, that update killed my phone. And so I was like, Apple, you know, you no hard feelings, but I have to destroy you because how you destroy my phone, and I'd be playing myself if I bought another iPhone, but I have to because there's an app that I can only use with Apple, and you know how y'all do. So I probably will be getting the iPhone 10, and then I might get the Note 10, even though that's what I have right now.
Why do you need two phones?
Because I'm a Gemini.
But if you're gonna get a new app, if you're gonna get a new iPhone, get a dual SIM. You can get a dual SIM. You can have two SIMs in one phone. So
why
you
would
can
I have two SIMs?
So you can have two numbers.
Oh no, I don't need two numbers. I just need two devices. I just need two different
You're
phones.
such a Gemini.
I am. Oh my god. I want the Android because Android is superior and you can actually access the file explorer, and then, you know, the Apple for, I was gonna say the bitches, but for, you know, just for the blue text, you feel me? Like it is what it is.
It's true.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited. We're here to chat with you guys a little bit about Sag season, which will be taking place basically the 22nd of November on. So we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the aspects. As you know, by the time you're watching this, it's post an eclipse that we had in Taurus, a North Node lunar eclipse. But the solar eclipse will be happening during Sag season, so we'll definitely touch on that a little bit and our kind of expectations. You want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on Sag season? I mean, just as kind of like I guess, like we're going to see all of the planets cross the South Node. So we're going to see the Sun cross the South Node,
so
Mars cross the South Node.
At the beginning of the season too.
Mars, I think, will probably get close to conjuncting. Yeah, it will by mid-December. Venus is going to conjunct Pluto. And right around the end of Sag season, it's going to start retrograding. We're going to do a whole video on that. Don't worry. And an eclipse that we're going to have at a solar eclipse, new moon solar eclipse in Sag.
That's going to be epic.
At 12 degrees. So let's talk a little bit about how we anticipate Sag season is going to go. Sun, Mercury, Mars is all going to be in Sag. Planets crossing that South Node aspect. Sextiling Saturn and Jupiter, squaring Neptune, quincunxed Uranus, and this is the final hours of having the South Node in Sag and the North Node in Gemini. So yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
Okay, I'm just more and more excited because all of this is crescendoing and leading into just more and more collapse, unveiling, and apocalyptic understanding of, as I see this, you know, the end of a Jupiter cycle, the end of a Saturn cycle, the end of a Pluto cycle. It's the end before a new beginning. So we're going to be revealed so much meaning through Sagittarius. And just to kind of recap, I'm very proud of Leo, but really Virgo and Libra season, because I feel like this Virgo season was truly a Virgo season. There's so much facts that were analyzed. There was so much, it led up to debate about the synthesis of these findings. And a lot of people were able to change their behavior around a lot of things. And so if we think about Libra and Sagittarius season is the completion of the Gemini eclipse. Where were you in June? Because that's going to relate very powerfully and magically to whatever we uncovered things are. We're going to see what it means in Sagittarius.
It's so hard for me to take you seriously with like margarita salt all over your lips.
Oh my God.
I could have let you keep going, and I was going to. As I was making the margaritas, I was like, I'm just going to let his crusty ass margarita lips just like hang the entire...
This is my new style. Margarita lips.
You'll get a lot of white women doing that, so.
Hey, Becky, what's good? Holla at me.
Just make sure you text him with your iPhone.
I was like, why was she looking at me like that? What am I saying?
I was like looking at it and I was like, do I say something? Do I not say something? Sorry, go ahead. Please, I'm gonna spit a drink everywhere. We need like a plastic shield, like the splash zone.
This margarita's fire though. I like it.
Right?
That's good.
I got to where I was like, that could be too much tequila, but it's the end of the bottle, so I just dumped it all in.
Ooh,
Whatever.
wisdom. But I think relative to so much that has uncovered, the Libra to Pisces season is a completion of Aries to Virgo. So each season from now on is answering the question that the last 6 months answered or asked. And so that foundation with the eclipse at the near end of Gemini, I think through Virgo, which was an important checkpoint, Sagittarius is going to show so much that we might have lost in translation, and collectively for everyone reveal the higher meaning of where we're headed. And with that square to Neptune, there's going to be a lot of unveiling and seeing through deception and ways things were, miscommunicated.
Distortion.
And distorted.
Yeah.
So we want to see this as a completion of a narrative, getting ready to close the year out. And Sag, Cap, Aqua, Pisces are the final collective God signs. So it's going to start off with a bang. I love how you mentioned we're crossing over the South Node. That's going to really be like a form or sense of closure.
We've only had that once, right? We've only had that one time. That was last Sag season, because before that, the North and the South Node were
That's
in
so
Cancer and Taurus. Cancer and Capricorn.
That's
so
true. That's true. And we had it at the beginning, the end of Sag. Now it's at the beginning.
So look at what's happened, right, over the last year and a half. Major restrictions with getting on airplanes.
Yeah.
Major limitations
South
with
Node
air
Sag.
travel, international travel. Major legal strife, spiritual crisis issues, social justice issues, issues revolving around immigration and people seeking asylum. That's kind of Pisces too, but the squares have been to Neptune. South Node and Sag really making us aware of where we have become super self-righteous and totally focused on what's going on globally, but not always seeing what's going on right in front of us. The narrative changes and where we're blowing situations out of proportion. Pilots that are opting to call in sick to work because they don't want to comply with mandates. Lots of delayed planes. So there's some kind of darker sides of the South Node in Sag, especially as we start to see the Sun cross the South Node right at the very beginning. So
Do you think that'll trigger an event?
Yes. Yes, I do.
With just the Sun or also when Mercury and Mars goes there?
I feel like it may be just prior, when the Sun is actually, just after the eclipse. So it's right after the eclipse. We may not see it more until also the new moon as well. And that will be the other eclipse. But the Sun conjunct the South Node, because at the time Jupiter is the ruler of the Sun. So I kind of look at that and go, well, what's going on with Jupiter? Oh, Jupiter is still kind of roughly been in a square to the Sun and Mercury. So obviously the topic of travel, right, especially around Thanksgiving, is a big theme. And I'm going to preface this by saying, I don't really know when this is going to come out. This might come out right before Thanksgiving, so it's good that we're doing this now. But you want to look at what the data, the information, the statistics are, what articles are coming out revolving around travel around the holidays, at least here in the States. As Mercury comes into a square with Jupiter and a trine with Neptune, there can be some sense of yeah, we're going to let everybody travel, do whatever you got to do, everything's fine, with the understanding that in the future, just so you guys know, in order to be able to travel internationally or get on domestic flights or whatever, there may be new documentation necessary. So then shortly after that...
Which will be standard new status quo.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to interrupt what you were about to
go
say.
ahead.
But my question is, Joe Biden and America are Sagittarius risings. So how do you think
His shit's getting all fucked up from the eclipse prior to this.
The full moon eclipse, right, in Taurus.
Prior to this. And I outside of these Sag season astrology, I've said this for a very long time. If you guys are not looking into the future of what's going on astrologically, you should be.
Right.
Because we're going to be seeing that in the new year, off the bat, the nodes are forming a square with Saturn. in Aquarius. Then we're going to see the North Node conjunct Uranus, which will be over the summer. So restrictions, limitations, social isolation, lockdowns, regulations, mandates, these aren't going away. And I'm not saying
It's
this from
changing form.
Right. It's just the goalpost is moving. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
So we're going to find that when we thought we were coming to a period where we were going to start to have more freedom, realistically we don't. I guess the positive news is that Jupiter moving into Pisces out of Aquarius, where it's been coupled up with Saturn, and even last year it was coupled up with Saturn and Capricorn, it breaks into Pisces and it goes, we need more freedom. We want freedom to roam.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say cowbell. We need more cowbell.
We definitely need more cowbell. We always need more cowbell.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
What's up.
That's such a white reference.
It is.
I
mean,
love that you said that.
Yeah, this is the first thing that came to mind. But
We always need more cowbell.
it's I love that you said that too, because once again, like, I didn't really want to even bring up Brandon, but personally, like, his rising being the same as the country's rising, this country, which its face of let freedom ring, Sagittarius, is freedom. And so we have the South Node. I think the Sagittarius is going to be instrumental. The Sagittarius season is going to be instrumental of really changing the face of how we see America. Because after this Sag season, we're going to come into the Pluto return.
Also, it's a
gonna
lot.
be
It's a
crazy.
lot about what's being televised. And so one thing I
Right.
will say is just that,
Broadcast.
just through me kind of like doing some digging and looking at more independent media, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, the revolution has not been broadcasted.
The revolution will not be televised.
Right? It's not happening. It has not been happening. You're not hearing about it. You're not seeing it. The mainstream media is trying to distort, manipulate, withhold. I can say wholeheartedly, having clients all over the world, a lot of the news that you're getting in other countries, I'm not seeing in America. So we have to actually do the digging and look and see what's going on and stay informed and stay connected in order to see this. But
Get a VPN.
really pay attention to like the 21st through the 24th as the sun conjuncts the South Node. It can represent some loss of power, some powerful
That's
figure
so deep.
falling.
And so that's why, and I hate to interrupt,
No, go
please
ahead.
continue that thought, but that's why I'm asking, because the president of this nation has the same rising sign as this nation. So I think he's going to be brought into front and center, and like, it's going to be very important what decisions he makes, what he does. Like, I really get the sense that this is his debut relative to this year. Just like Trump's debut was near August, and he was in the news, and then in his third house in Libra season, his social media truth campaign came out.
Yeah.
So, it'd be
Well, and
interesting to see.
depending on how you look at Biden's chart, I don't remember the degree of the rising per se. Do you?
I think it was like middle. I think it was like in the beginning or
So
middle.
whether you look at whole sign or Placidus, if you look at a whole sign, the South Node in the first house of like literally his body being detached from what's going on with reality. South Node transit the first is like you're not connected of this world, right? You feel very disconnected.
Does
I've
that
seen
make you poop your pants?
I mean, I don't know. I've seen videos of him fucking sleeping at meetings. Did you see that video?
I wanted to pretend that was.
He was sleeping. He was straight up sleeping.
I
and
wanted to
masked.
pretend it was digitally altered. I
No,
didn't want to
he
believe
was
that was
sleeping.
real. That's not even funny. Like, is he okay?
We're gonna see with the eclipses. I mean, you know, whether, like I said, whether you look at whole sign or Placidus, the South Node moving there, the eclipse happening there. Also, we're seeing all the eclipses impact his personal planets in Scorpio. Like, Joe Biden's a person to really watch. We've talked about this before, but especially, you know, November all the way into spring of next year. But I think with the South Node now moving into America's 12th house and the North Node moving into the 6th,
Oh my God, the South Node is moving into America's 12th house.
it has already been there.
Oh shit.
It's already been there. I don't remember the degrees of the rising, but it's been there.
That sounds like all of its deep, dark secrets and hidden
Wholeheartedly.
stuff being completely
But
exposed.
if you're a whole sign houser, you would say the North Node is just moving there into the 12th, which
true,
can
true.
insinuate people with significant Scorpio placements being
Yeah.
people who are literally Scorpio is like sex and scandal and where the
that
bodies
too.
are buried and like you know that kind of stuff.
Shout out to Michael
How
Flynn.
our money is being spent, how it's being utilized in terms of our funding for war or even like other countries. So
Deep.
it can go a million different ways, but I think between the Sun and the South Node conjunct, and then also Mercury conjunct the South Node. Remember, Mercury does not do well in Sag. It tells tall tales. Okay?
That's deep,
So
right.
there is some sense of really learning that we need to let go of this need to just totally blow up the narrative of certain situations.
Plus square Neptune, it's just going to be strange. Could you imagine if Trump got caught sleeping? Like, how many news channels would just, like, burst and, like, push that
Well, this
out?
is in Trump's 4th house, and it's also near his
Right.
natal south node, and his moon is somewhere in there as well. So Trump's going to be a very interesting person to watch for the next 2 months, because you're going to see that activation of oppositions to his natal sun, Uranus and North Node in the 10th. You're going to see squares to transit Neptune in the 7th. I will go as far as saying one of his parents might die, his wife might divorce him, he might change locations where he's living, he might move somewhere new. All kinds of crazy things can happen with his chart.
And then I guess we should also extend that to Kamala Harris, because she also has...
Any chance you get.
She also has North Node Gemini.
She reminds me of like a chihuahua. Like every time I see her, she's like a chihuahua.
That is amazing. What if she was like a Chihuahua rising, but like a Pitbull moon? Something like
What would
that.
a chihuahua rising be?
Gemini rising?
I was going to say the same thing. What's a pitbull moon? Scorpio moon?
I mean, she has an Aries moon, so I don't know. Maybe it's a German Shepherd moon, but...
No, that's definitely a pitbull moon.
Aries moon?
Yeah.
I knew it. Yeah,
Yeah,
so she's
I
like
resonate
a,
with that
she's like
very
a
much
Pitbull
so.
on the inside, but she acts like a Chihuahua. You know, all innocent and docile.
A lot
But
of bite in a small package. You know?
oh my God, I can't believe I just said that too. That's crazy. But like,
No offense to the dogs. Sorry. Full disclaimer.
but you know, and that's what I love too. Like, I don't want to talk about COVID, but you know, it's kind of interesting how a certain someone got huge backlash for the experiments he did on a dog, and it's like no one really cared until the dogs were involved. Although that apparently wasn't him, but something that
The funding still went
His
through that.
funding
And it
went
was
through
funded
that.
by that.
So
It
they're
was
trying to, like, get
okayed,
him-
and then they became aware of what was happening. That's something I'm really sensitive about.
But like the only point of me saying that was I just love how it wasn't until the dogs were involved that people started caring.
Because white people give more of a fuck about their dogs than they do their children. I can say
Yo,
that.
that's
I mean,
hilarious.
this is coming from somebody, and that whole situation, I won't get into it, but that really upsets me because I have supported and donated and volunteered and become super affiliated with Beagle Freedom Project for a very long time.
And they're the ones who called them out.
Yeah, and
right.
that's, I had a beagle for 16 and a half years. Rest in peace, Mr. Scouticus Maximus. He just passed in April.
That's
he
a
was my
badass
baby.
name.
He was a 29-degree Scorpio sun and Jupiter conjunct. This was his last life as a dog, so he learned all the occult things from me.
That is
But, beagles are the most... they're hypersensitive, their skin, their smell, everything's very sensitive, so they have a tendency to test on those dogs. So that particular
Were they beagles?
Yeah, they were beagles.
Oh.
Yeah, that group really focuses on being able to rescue, get them out of labs. Not a lot of people realize those dogs are sought after for testing.
I'm
They
sure there
go
was a
in-
scientific reason for their faces to be completely...
I mean, it's
like
just
parasites.
horrible. It doesn't matter if it's a dog or if it's a rabbit or if it's a human or if it's a fucking centipede.
For science!
It's just, and a lot of people don't realize a lot of things are tested on animals, right? A lot of people don't realize that. Like if you were to look at a list of products that you buy regularly, most likely most of these things have been tested on animals. But it's just sad, because a lot of those dogs, they don't see the light of day. They go into a cage as a puppy. They're tested and tortured for anywhere from 7 to 10 years. They never go outside. They never socialize. They never see the grass, and then they euthanize them. So if you guys are somebody who wants to support a really great group, look into Beagle Freedom Project. Please do. It's a really great cause.
It's cool as long as it's not humans. Then
Fuck
that's
humans.
illegal. She's not mortal. That's all she's saying.
I'm really not. The more that we do this, the more that I realize I'm not.
She's an alien, y'all.
I guess something else we should mention in the midst of all of this is that as this Sag season is starting, we also begin to see that, Venus has been in the shadow period. So Venus isn't the most important thing necessarily. Jupiter is. And I think Jupiter's going to do better when it goes into Pisces, but it won't during Sag season.
So that's how you see it, right? So it's Libra season right now. So it's Scorpio season right now. So Pluto's the most important planet.
Yes, or
That's
Mars. Yeah. But Venus is in the shadow, so we're going to begin to see kind of like the uptick of what's going on with some of the Venus retrograde themes, so stay tuned for that. But
question. I didn't think Lilith moved that slow, but we see Juno is in Capricorn. So what do you feel about Juno leaving Sag and going into Cap with Venus?
I feel like it's after, I mean, this, you have to understand, this has been a long transit of Juno in Sag in opposition to Lilith and Ceres.
Right. Oh,
right?
I didn't even see Ceres. You're right.
Yeah. So all of November, it's been a real hard opposition, and you've got Ceres and Lilith that have been doing their thing, kind of crossing over eclipse points. So quite literally, if you've got Lilith and Ceres conjunct in opposition to Juno, it's like a lot of Sages, a lot of Geminis, a lot of mutable signs are having some challenges revolving around the idea of like broken partnerships, the fact that other people have moved on, taking on new partners, moving somewhere else. Jealousy, like Juno is notoriously very jealous, so that jealous aspect revolving around who people are with now, who they've been with, who they're traveling with, who they see on social media. I'm a fan of Juno going into Capricorn. I like it, especially because Juno, I feel like is Juno's fine in all of the signs. I'm not gonna pick one more than the other, but in an Earth sign, especially a Saturn-based sign, a Capricorn sign. And Saturn is in a sextile to Mercury and the Sun. I think it's great. Maybe I'm biased because it's going to transit my natal Venus. But I like it. I think it's a little bit more stable. Juno will come into a trine with Uranus at some point.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have gangbusters of planets. I mean, Venus.
Do you think that's like love at first sight, or like unions forming and constructing during this period, or establishing?
Definitely, especially since Saturn is coming out of the square with Mars, and we start to see that Venus is also in Capricorn. So there's more about long-term commitment, and maybe we're going to begin to see the real like cement foundations of like what relationships are really made of.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think we'll even see great breakthrough regarding travel. I think there's going to be a silver lining. I
think there's going to be a really bad issue with airlines. I think
absolutely.
Airline stocks are going to fucking tumble, to be honest with you. I think we're going to see a pretty significant, prominent crash.
Are there a lot of pilots that are like not rebelling, but like not?
Yeah, they're all calling in sick because technically they can't. Yeah, they can't not show up, but they're calling in sick for mandates. But also, I think a lot of it is going to deal with Mercury conjunct the South Node, technological issues. All of this theme of like, there's been delays with flights because there's been high winds or weather issues or this or that. Like, I think we're going to start to realize, like, the reality is there's been way too many canceled or delayed flights. Clearly there's something going on. They're not upholding their agreements, and this is building towards, it's building towards the media, I think, falsely covering what's going on with some of these situations. So you might really
or not telling the full truth.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot more of that. Like, it's not that. It's like they're reporting facts, but they're not telling you what that all means. And that's why Sagittarius, which is a sign of meaning, I think before, like the Neptune squares, information coming out, and then Neptune having to fog it or twist it, I think a lot of people are going to see the truth. And they may not have a lot of time to synthesize what that means, but everyone's going to kind of see a glimpse of what's really been happening. And that might even be through the South Node. So it's also
legality, right? So like law is going to be questioned. I see law being questioned, especially after coming out of Libra season when Mercury, Mars, the Sun has all been in a square to Pluto. So many people in September and October have been quietly kind of going through the process of like going, I don't feel my rights are being recognized. I want to go and find somebody who's going to help support me. How can I band with other people? Talking to attorneys, talking to people about the legal process. And now we're going to see this uptick of like November going into December is going to be huge conversations about our legal process and like the due process and like whether or not our rights are being upheld and whether or not we're still honoring certain texts or documents or agreements. Mercury in Libra. Excuse me, in Sagittarius. So it's going to be the law. The law is changing, right? So look for the law evolving and how it changes and how we're referencing things or whether or not the law falls short because it will conjunct the South Node. But certainly the topic of travel, right, is going to be a big topic. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at, well, how many people are traveling during Thanksgiving and how many people are leaving? And are we seeing, things, improving, or are people afraid to travel? Or are we not really seeing some of the numbers that we wanted to see? And then do some of the travel or the airplane stocks tank, right? Because it's losses. It's the South Node. So it's really prominent the 22nd through the 26th. I'm really interested in this Mercury Cazimi that's going to happen. That's Vesta.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a Mercury Cazimi. Mercury moves ahead of the sun. It's within the heart of the sun. So the sun being the ego, information, happiness, joy, action. Mercury's conjunct, and Vesta's in the mix. And this is around the 29th. So this is about our focus on preserving travel, preserving religious rights. I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot about religious exemption for the mandates.
Or like updates, because I've heard that not all of them work. So would there be some kind of change?
Possibly. It's possible.
Or...
There's going to be something. When Mercury Cazimi's with the sun, there's definitely some kind of epiphany, aha moment that appears. And you got to love fucking astrology, dude. This day, the sun and Mercury Cazimi, it trines Chiron.
I was going to ask, what do you think about the trine to Chiron?
And it sextiles the moon.
And it sextiles Saturn, no?
So people who really genuinely do have health issues that are really afraid, or they have religious beliefs or whatever, or things pertaining to documentation and travel, like this stuff's going to come up. And there's going to be some important information coming out in the news, interestingly enough, with that sextile from the moon just prior to the eclipse. Keep in mind, Venus is getting really fucking close to Pluto. We've got a sextile between Mars and Scorpio, super strong, to Venus in Capricorn. Mars is also in a trine to Neptune, very emotional.
I feel like the sextile to Saturn will sustain anything that sparks, because the Cazimi is a new cycle.
Yes.
Before we have
well,
it again.
Essentially what's going to happen is I'm just going to put this out there now. I feel like what's going to be put out at the end of November is some countries are going to basically come out and go, just so you guys know, in the new year, if you want to come and go in and out of this country, these are the documents that you need. That's all I'm going to say.
That makes sense. And what do you feel about, I mean, I don't have any proof of this, but my source is Instagram. I saw this on social media, but it was something about, I'm not really speaking of this, but just really the concept, the notion, but it was something about maybe the Taliban or ISIS preparing an attack, maybe in another 14, 20 months. So, I mean, what do you feel about...
I heard I heard that. Something about, being prepared for, stuff revolving around the grid.
And then a cyber pandemic, too.
Cyber pandemic.
Candace Owens put out a video, my best friend, apparently, she was only saying that because the last time they said that there might be a pandemic, there was a pandemic.
Well, they brought it up at the World Economic Forum.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So, apparently there might be a cyber pandemic.
I'm hoping there isn't an attack. I'm going to be really honest with you. When Mars comes into Sag and conjuncts the South Node...
There we go.
That's going to happen. Something's going to happen, because Mars is about war. It's about energy.
Yeah.
Whether you're looking at it from a Western perspective of it being in Sag, or a Vedic of it being in Capricorn. Many Vedic readers are also being
Scorpio?
that it's going to move into Sag. But from a Vedic perspective,
you said being in Capricorn.
When it's in Sag.
Oh, you mean okay. You mean when it's Vedic?
I'm sorry, it's behind. So they're going to say no. I think they're going to say that it's in Capricorn, right?
Scorpio.
Scorpio? Maybe it's Scorpio. Oh yeah, it's Scorpio. So when we say it's in Sag, they say it's in Scorpio, but that is an omen of war or some kind of warfare happening.
I truly believe. And see, here's the thing though. What if war is happening right now, but it's not?
Yeah, it's been happening. Yeah,
right?
the nodes have been in a square to Neptune. Many things. And I use the term war loosely.
Right.
Right? Because war doesn't have to be
too, right?
that. It can be economic, biochemical warfare. It can be stuff going on at sea. There's all kinds of things. But I would look for that Cazimi on the 29th. I would also say that when Mars comes into a square with Jupiter, so actually December 2nd, when the moon moves into Scorpio, it's going to oppose Uranus and Taurus, square Saturn and Jupiter, and conjunct Mars. Look for events that are setting up here on December 2nd. Just on the heels, coming into what will be the new moon in Sagittarius, which will be that solar eclipse. And this is an interesting solar eclipse on December 4th, because we've got it at 12 degrees It's going to be conjunct Mercury at 15, quincunx Uranus. So people are going to start to kind of realize like, oh, something's changing. Something's changing about the story revolving around our resources, a new moon.
Change definitions to things.
I think it's going to affect educational systems, not just travel. I think it's going to be institutions, private schools, colleges, right? Especially at a 12. Thankfully, we still have that sextile loosely to Saturn and that sextile to Jupiter. But I'm not wild about the square to Neptune.
The new moon is 12 degrees Sag, which is that was the new moon for Scorpio tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's wild. Yep. And it's still going to quincunx Uranus. So, wow.
Yeah, Uranus is kind of the star of the show. And I've said this a lot on my channel. That's like, who gives a fuck about the astrology of 2021? Let's talk about 2022. And a lot of people are still trying to reconcile with what happened in 2020. But like, I'm so hyper focused on, okay, next year when the node squares Saturn, and then in the summer when Uranus conjuncts the North Node, that's the hard line evolution. Like that's when we have to. So everything that's happening, whether it's an opposition to Uranus, a square to Uranus, and in conjunct to Uranus, Uranus in Taurus is showing you where something is going to change in a very explosive, revolutionary way.
And people are talking about there being tsunamis that knock out the East Coast and flood Florida. And I wouldn't believe that, but knowing that Jupiter is going to be in Pisces and they're saying that certain fault lines have been destroyed.
Oh, there's going to be flooding. There, I mean, especially when Jupiter and Neptune come together. Extreme weather,
Poseidon's
flooding.
revenge.
But also, I think about how that's the Neptune the Neptune Jupiter conjunction is going to sextile Uranus. So yeah, geographical changes. We're going to see volcanoes. We're going to see earthquakes. We're going to see flooding. You know, suddenly with the North Node in Taurus, we become focused on the physical, like what the earth is like plants and trees and how we're eating and how we're feeding ourselves. And if we see that there's heavy floods, heavy rains, sextiling with Uranus, how that affects our ability to have physical security, from food to resources to buildings to money, whatever.
So Sagittarius is really going to be that like climax point where we begin to see what the next year is going to start to look like.
I can't help but also notice that the eclipse is in opposition to Lilith.
Right. And that just really bugs me. It's like
it's challenging the narrative of truth.
And it's been in there for so
long. And where truth tellers with an eclipse in opposition to Lilith are people...
truth taboo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big time.
Damn.
Big time. I think the only other thing I would say is just once these planets come into a square with Neptune, a day to really watch also is going to be when Venus and the Moon conjunct Pluto on December 6th. Then we also see Mars is going to cross the eclipse opposition point from the Taurus eclipse. So December 6th, 7th, and 8th is on fire.
Yeah. I feel like it just progressively intensifies and then boom, 2022.
Well, I mean, but with Mercury and the Sun coming into a square with Neptune is like challenging the narrative, and if things are being blown out of proportion, which I do think is inevitable, you know, and then once Venus crosses Pluto around mid-month, we're getting ready to come into what will be the Venus retrograde. I think that the finale is going to be this full moon happening in Gemini.
Oh no.
26 degrees.
Jesus.
And it's still in a square to Neptune, so it's still challenging, questioning the narrative, especially regarding the media. Jupiter's the star of the show. Jupiter's in the last degrees of Aquarius, which is fighting for freedom, fighting for expansion, fighting for truth, fighting for the future.
And a realization that everyone argues about. It's like people are going to see something but won't agree on what it means.
And Jupiter squares the nodes.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
wait
big.
a minute.
Jupiter sextile.
Jupiter
sextile the Sun. Jupiter trine the Moon. Jupiter square the node. So it's going to blow a situation out of proportion so big, revolving around restriction and limitation and truth, that it's the setup for the new year.
And I feel like 2020, 2021 was the 1-2 punch that sets the next 1-2 punch of 2022 and 2023.
I just keep telling people, whatever you've been doing in 2020 and 2021, don't assume that things are going to go back to normal and that we're just going to
Exactly.
be fine. It's like, no, we have to now learn to integrate the changes that we've made. One other thing I would say is on the 15th, Mars does conjunct the South Node.
Which is wild too, because the last time that people had to wear masks, it was 2 years maximum. So now we're reaching the time.
Do you know how many people died during that pandemic? I almost have to Google
Spanish
this.
flu?
Yes.
Right, H3N2.
I feel like it was millions upon millions of people.
And I think if this is the Spanish flu, was it the one in the 60s?
No. This is the 1800s.
1800s, okay, never mind. Because there was one 1912 where Jupiter and Pluto were in Cancer, and then one when Jupiter and Pluto were in Virgo, H3N2.
1918 pandemic.
That's the one I'm talking about.
500 million people, 1/3 of the world's
This was when
population became
Jupiter-
infected with the virus.
This was when Jupiter
Spanish
and
flu.
Cancer, Jupiter and Pluto were in Cancer. And now COVID was when Jupiter and Pluto were in Capricorn. So that's
So they're
really interesting.
assuming 25 to 50 million people died. We haven't had that many people die in this
5
pandemic.
million. 5
But
million
also, I
throughout the whole
was
world.
reading. It's so interesting. Just like side note, I've been getting. I went to school and it went through the whole program for Jeffrey Wolf Green's Pluto School for the evolutionary astrology. Ooh. And I was digging through some of the books recently, and I was reading about how they were talking about. And this book was probably published like 10, 12 years ago. They were talking about how when Pluto goes into Capricorn and we start to see changes to global warming, and that we're going to see all kinds of issues that will happen with viruses, that eventually is meant to rebalance what's going on Earth and like kill certain things off. Mm-hmm. So it's not unbelievable. Like it is possible given what's going on in the world. What's possible? Just, stuff that's going on with the pandemic and stuff, and how it's killing people off. But right. The numbers of the Spanish flu,
it doesn't
compared
even compare.
to now, there's no comparison.
And I mean,
there's no comparison.
A lot of that is the advent of technology and health. But I mean,
Uranus and Taurus is considered debilitated.
Real? So yeah. Uranus is in its dignity in Scorpio?
Or fall. It's one of the two. It's in the fall. So it's in the fall. Okay? So if it's in the fall, if you look back in time with what happened the last time Uranus was in Taurus, we didn't know shit about health. It was the very beginning of us starting to learn about antibiotics and other things. I'll save you the spiel.
And we have the Great Depression and the economic crash.
And major changes with money.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We're going to talk to you guys all about the Venus retrograde. That's what's going to be coming up in the next episode.
And I hope you enjoyed this episode and be willing to explore this Sagittarius season. And hey, even into some pants if that's your thing. So stay blessed as always.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching and supporting. Don't forget to click the bell button below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out our subscriptions. Make it possible for us to keep doing what we're doing.
Shout out to our level 1, 2, and 3 members.
We love you guys so much. We appreciate you. We will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.